It's called public-sac. I'm going to do this for a fact. 5 seconds. It's a lot of stuff. Some people call them poop bags full of paper. They're pretty heavy. This is about 3 weeks worth. Right here. So everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Those are public-sac. I want to talk about spammy atoms. There's a new kind of spam. Spoiler alert, I already told you what it is. It's got a huge environmental footprint. It's subsidized by your tax dollars if you live in Quebec, and you probably have it elsewhere if you don't. And there's no way to unsubscribe or opt out. So I want to do a quick survey. Show of hands. If you live in Quebec, answer this for these things. If you don't live in Quebec, answer it as if you got these hung on your door or thrown on your doorstep twice a week. How many people would actually read what's in those? Okay, wait, keep them out. 1, 2, 3. Julian, get your hand down. You're too trendy for this. 1, 2, 3. You read it, Paul?
Canadian Tire.
Canadian Tire, but do you read in a public sac? So in a public sac, in a bag like this, do you open it up and read the stuff that's in it? Show of hands. James is turning it into fuel. Doug, why do you read them?
Also, I like the Canadian Tire circular. I don't get the paper. But you can opt out. You put a little sticker on your metal box.
Oh, we'll get into that. You think you could opt out. How long do you spend looking through it? Dan?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Anybody else?
20 or 30 minutes on Sunday.
20 or 30 minutes on Sunday morning. Really? You're still married, right? Katrine hasn't actually just stayed on one of those archaeological digs? It has a newspaper in it. Is there no delivery on Laurentians? Is that it? I'm just going to roast the audience. Okay. How many people consider this the most informative medium for making a shopping choice? Nobody. Okay, good. Well, I lied. It's not a new form of spam, but we tolerate it, and there's a lot of it. 50 million items are delivered in Quebec each week to 3 million houses on weekdays, 2.2 million houses on weekends and weekdays. Here's a little math. I'll get 41 pounds of those per year. That's 11,000 tons for the city of Montreal, for Quebec in 2006. That's 45,000 trees, 25,300 cubic meters of landfill, 345,400,000 liters of water, 46,200,000 kilowatt hours of energy, 17,600,000 liters of oil, 286 kilograms of air pollutants. That's a lot of heavy air. And 47 million plastic bags, so that Dan can spend a half hour reading. This sucks. Anybody? Yeah. So I'm going to show you what the maker of these bags tells us about how useful they are and stuff. Here's how they defend it. First of all, they say, hey, it's good marketing. They claim a 97% penetration in the Quebec market. A recent poll of 1,400 households that they conducted, which I cannot find the answers to or any information on, says that 90% of consumers consult their public sac before making purchases. 90%. We had what, 12%? Half of you were kidding? Worse. 66% consider the public sac, quote, their most informative medium for making shopping choices above newspapers, TV, radio, and magazine ads. Transcontinental, who publishes these things, sorry Ian, claims that 94% of recipients examine the content of the public sac and spend 15 to 30 minutes leafing through it every time it arrives. They don't say how they get this data, other than some crop 2008 survey I couldn't find anywhere on the internet. So they defend it by saying, you know what, hey, we have this high-rise solution. We'll even put a large box in your lobby so we can put shit in your lobby you don't want. This is horseshit. Their numbers do not add up. If you set aside that little survey, the U.S. Post Office says that less than half of all junk mail gets opened, even when it's addressed to you, not delivered in a poop bag. There's less than a 2% conversion rate for mail that's targeted to you, and even less for generic mailers. The industry standard is between 0.25% and 0.1% of opening. This is just like spam. It's the law of large numbers. You send 200 flyers to enough people, get one response. At 7 cents a flyer, that's $14 a customer, not counting the externalities like the city recycling program we're all subsidizing. There are better ways and online alternatives, and Transcon claims to have one. This is it. And guess what? They say in their thing, hey, in the last year, significant investment has been made to revamp our publicsac.ca website for Quebec. Here's how they're doing. Their best month was 3,000 hits, according to Compete.com. That's really bad. They're really not trying. They're doing this so they have a pressure valve to say, look, we're doing something. Let me compare them to, Living Social and Groupon, who are serious about online coupons. Transcon's publicstock.ca is still more. The second defense is that it can be recycled. More horseshit. Recycling is a false argument. Paper can only be recycled 3 to 4 times. Paper makes up 25% of municipal landfills, and junk mail is 2% of all municipal solid waste and 0.1% of all energy use in the world. Among U.S. manufacturing industries, paper making is the top consumer of water, the 3rd biggest consumer of energy, the 3rd highest emitter of pollutants, 4th highest greenhouse gas, 4th highest emitter of toxic pollutants. That shit that Dan wants to read is really bad for all of us. Worse of all, it actually uses the things that are supposed to consume CO2. 40% of trees worldwide end up as paper. And they go, but wait, you can opt out. We're giving it to you as a service. This is the one that really gets me mad. I'm all for free marketing and so on. It'd be great if they try not to destroy the planet while they're doing it, but there are no good systems to control propagation of this stuff. Direct mail that is not handled by the post office is delivered by carriers who are paid based on the quantity of stuff they carry around. We have different associations, like the Canadian Marketing Association and the FDSA. According to these organizations, marketers must use the federal government's national do not call list. Anyone know where that is? If you're on it, you shouldn't be getting public stocks. Any of you still getting public stocks even when you're on it? Yeah. Marketers must present consumers, including current customers, an easy to see, easy to understand, easy to execute opportunity to decline further marketing use of their name or other information. Anybody want to look at that bag and find me one thing telling you how to opt out of it? Turns out you can't. Nowhere on the public stack does it say how to opt out. This is a direct violation of Montreal. Yes, Tommy?
I just put a little thing that said no flyers. I never got it. I don't know.
Yeah, let me explain the statistics on that. Funny you should ask. A little thing. Did it look like this?
But it said no flyers on it.
Okay, so it turns out that they can still deliver to you because you're not in conformity with Quebec's law. So there's a law in Quebec that says if you have a sign at least 3.5 centimeters by 3.5 centimeters using Pantone warm red and a black logo, this means you refuse to receive advertising material. And there's actually a pretty well done Montreal law that's been around for a while talking about the delivery of this stuff. And this guy, Joshua Califour, had enough of this in 2010. He had a condo. Every tenant had compliance stickers exactly like that one. Public Stack was leaving materials in shared areas. He made 6 attempts to contact them to get them to stop, 3 attempts to contact the regulatory body that governs them, and then gave up and wrote an angry blog about it, and in modern day rage felt vented, and therefore it was okay. Part of the problem is that the economics of this mean it's a really dirty, low-wage job. This is a guy near our house. Basically, he's got a stolen shopping cart, and he's hung something from it, and his job is he gets paid based on how many of these things get dumped in front of people's houses. The law says, I'm going to go after the company, but the FDSA regulations say that you only require carriers to be trained over the phone, they never have to meet you in person. The company agrees only to maintain a do not delivered list and give it to carriers. There's no consequences for non-enforcement. There's no firing if you do this kind of stuff. The fourth defense is it's free speech. Well, is it free speech? Sort of. As you might guess, lawyers have kind of settled this for us. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that an absolute ban on targeted direct mail solicitation is actually prohibited. You can't ban direct mail, even when the lawyers are sending get-out-of-your-traffic ticket letters to people whose tickets are just arrived at the cops and they're doing a legal process of burdening the courts. But I'm going to call Transcon on this one. Transcon's policy is we aim for continuous improvement, prevention of pollution, and compliance with applicable environmental legislation, regulations, and other requirements. I think I've demonstrated they don't do any of these things. Here's what the Montreal law says. It says, hey, it can only be placed in a letterbox or slot in a container provided for that purpose or on a newspaper rack by hanging it in a hall of building where there are no objects that say don't do it. You can only do it on a rack if you don't have the first two. It can only go on the outside of a door leading to a single dwelling unit. There's some rules about this stuff. And no advertising material may be placed on private property if the owner or occupant specifies by way of a sign in accordance with that sticker, but you can't get it there. So why does it happen? Well, first of all, it's really hard to legislate. In San Antonio, Texas, they tried to pass a law on this. It failed on the grounds of home. They tried to pass it on the grounds of home safety, because when your newspapers pile up, robbers might think you're home. It failed because the media and the delivery lobbyists did it. It's very easy for them to claim and opt out. You can always opt out. It's so easy. Second reason, the post office needs the money. Even though in the U.S. it is illegal to actually take money from one class of mail and give it to another, so you can't take bulk mail and subsidize full first-class mail, you still continue to employ the carriers. The unions are very supportive of it. In fact, $30 billion a year of junk mail delivered by the U.S. Post Office each year. People are lazy. There was a 2009 petition to block these mailers in Montreal, got 446 signatures in 2 years. Well done. And people don't put those stickers up, even though they're easy to get and make. It turns out that if you break that law and deliver where there's a sticker, it's $600 for the first offense, $1,000 for the second offense, $2,000 for the third, and on. Part of the problem is the person delivering this stuff is poorly trained, often low wage, and the people who run the ads are often family-run businesses. So the carrier, the middleman, doesn't actually bear a lot of this. Instead of just whining about it, I actually have an answer. I think instead of opt-out, we need to convince people this should be opt-in. You should have to say, I'm willing to receive PubliSac, and given the availability of the internet for this kind of stuff, you should easily say, hey, I'm Dan, and for some reason I like to read these things, so please thank you for being my street member for this whole page. And so Dan opts in, the rest of us don't, and there's one version of it, all of a sudden the law of large numbers doesn't apply, and it withers like it should. So we need to think about what would a real-world report spam button look like. Because that's the only way to enforce an opt-in versus opt-out. What we need is an easy way to report unwanted bags. For example, you can take a picture of the bag as it's delivered with time and geocoding. Some tracking that's been followed up on. So send the person who submits that image and that tag a mail a week later saying, did you get it again next week? And some kind of central clearinghouse with visualization. And I bet if you went to Groupon and said, hey Groupon, how'd you like to subsidize a campaign across North America to get rid of doorstop coupons? That's a very good use of their money. They'd love to do that. There's a carrot and stick. You then take a website that's got 10,000 of these pictures submitted by people with their smartphones and say, hey, there's $1 million in tax revenues in here if you just enforce these clearly documented violations of your own law. And maybe in Quebec, you can even pay for fixing our roads there. Thank you very much.